Number 10. Hallucinations in the dark. Ever stayed up so long that shadows start to move? When your brain is running on fumes, it begins playing tricks that feel eerily close to horror movie scenes. Sleep deprivation weakens the brain's visual cortex, the region that interprets what your eyes are seeing. Instead of delivering crisp reality, it starts blending imagination with memory. That's why you might see a person standing in the corner of your room or a spider crawling on the ceiling when there's nothing there. In fact, research shows that after about 40 hours of wakefulness, over 70% of people report visual hallucinations, some mild like lights flickering or shapes bending, and others terrifying like hearing voices whispering your name. The irony: your brain isn't broken, it's improvising. Deprived of dreams during sleep, it bleeds dream logic into your waking hours. Famous historical figures weren't immune. Napoleon, during his relentless military campaigns, described seeing phantoms on the battlefield after days without rest. Modern soldiers in training exercises have reported shadowy figures following them even when their squad mates confirm no one was there. It's the mind's attempt to fill in sensory gaps like a movie projector playing on loop, except the film reel is scrambled with nightmares. So, the next time you're up too late and swear you saw something dart across the hallway, it's not a ghost, it's your brain, running Windows 95 on 2% battery. Number 9. Forgetting how things work. Imagine brushing your teeth and suddenly forgetting how toothpaste is supposed to go on the brush. This bizarre brain glitch is a symptom of fatigue known as microsleep confusion. When neurons get overworked, they start taking involuntary timeouts, shutting down for seconds at a time, even while you're awake. During these split-second blackouts, procedural memory, the system that controls automatic tasks like tying shoelaces or pouring cereal, goes offline. That's why you might find yourself staring at your shoelaces like they're alien technology, or holding your phone upside down, wondering why it won't unlock. A chilling example. In 2009, an Air France pilot reportedly experienced task confusion during a long-haul night flight, mistaking key controls during turbulence. Fatigue didn't make him clumsy, it hijacked the part of his brain that remembered what to do under stress. And here's the kicker, you don't realize when it's happening. Researchers at the University of Michigan found that tired participants performed simple routines like making coffee incorrectly, but insisted afterward that they'd done it right. Your exhausted brain literally gaslights you. Sleep scientists call it wake state instability, but let's be honest, it feels more like your brain temporarily forgetting it. Downloaded the tutorial for life. Number 8. Time travel brain. Pull an all-nighter, and suddenly time either crawls like a snail or sprints like Usain Bolt. That warped perception comes from the brain's suprachiasmatic nucleus, your biological clock getting scrambled when you're sleep-deprived. Without proper sleep cycles to reset it, your sense of seconds and minutes drifts wildly. This is why a 5-minute task at 3 a.m. can feel like an hour, or why you look up after just one YouTube video, and it's somehow sunrise. Prisoners deprived of sleep during interrogations have described losing track of whether it's day or night, while long-haul truckers often report missing hours on the road. Their bodies were awake, but their brains weren't stamping time correctly. There's a spooky side too. Psychologists link this distortion to feelings of déjà vu and dissociation, almost like slipping out of your own timeline. That eerie sensation of, wait, didn't this already happen, is magnified when you're sleep-starved because your hippocampus, the memory librarian, starts filing things in the wrong drawer. In short, the tired brain is a terrible timekeeper. It turns you into your own unreliable narrator living inside a clock that ticks forward, backward, and sideways all at once. Number 7. Paranoia mode. Activated. Ever noticed how when you're exhausted, everyone suddenly looks suspicious? That's not just moodiness, it's your brain slipping into paranoia mode. Studies show that after just one night of poor sleep, the amygdala, the part of your brain responsible for detecting threats, becomes hyperactive. Combine that with reduced control from the prefrontal cortex, the logical part, and suddenly your brain is shouting, "That guy at the coffee shop is plotting against you." Sleep-deprived people often misinterpret neutral faces as hostile and mundane sounds as signs of danger. This isn't just theory. NASA once conducted studies on astronauts and found that fatigue made them more likely to suspect equipment failure or miscommunication, even when everything was fine. Imagine being in space and thinking your own oxygen system might betray you. Terrifying. There's even a dark twist: paranoia from exhaustion mirrors symptoms of psychosis. In fact, prolonged sleep deprivation is sometimes used in lab settings to induce temporary psychotic-like states for study. So that uneasy feeling you get at 2 a.m. when you think someone's watching you, it's your sleep-starved amygdala screaming at shadows. It's no wonder horror movies often use sleeplessness as a plot device, because a tired brain makes real life feel like the Blair Witch Project. Number 6. Phantom itches and crawls. You're lying in bed overtired but unable to sleep when suddenly itch. Then another. Then the sensation of something crawling on your arm. Congratulations, your nervous system is pranking you. When your brain is exhausted, sensory neurons misfire, producing false signals. This phenomenon, sometimes called formication, from the Latin word formica, meaning ant, tricks you into thinking bugs are crawling across your skin. It's common in extreme fatigue, but also in withdrawal fever and even high stress. Truck drivers on multi-day routes have reported feeling insects under their clothing. Soldiers in the trenches of World War I described the same sensations during sleepless nights, even when lice weren't the culprit. It's one of the body's cruelest tricks. You're already desperate for rest, and now you feel like your skin is hosting an ant colony. Scientists think this happens because the brain struggles to filter out noise from the nervous system. Normally, your brain ignores tiny static signals, but when it's tired, it starts interpreting them as full-blown sensations, like an exhausted security guard jumping at every sound. So if you've ever slapped your arm in the middle of the night only to realize nothing was there, don't worry, you're not haunted. You're just sleep-deprived enough to invent your own creepy, crawly horror show. Number 5. Losing words. Mid-sentence. You know that moment when you're talking and suddenly your brain drops the mic. Sleep deprivation wrecks your working memory, the mental notepad you use to keep track of what you're saying. That's why tired people often lose words, mid-sentence stutter more, or swap common terms with bizarre replacements. For example, you might mean to say, "Can you pass the salt?" and instead ask, "Can you hand me the sand?" Embarrassing but common. Linguists call this semantic drift, and it gets worse the more fatigued you are. There's even a chilling case of a hospital doctor on a 36-hour shift who accidentally prescribed the wrong medication because he confused 2 drug names that sounded alike. Thankfully, another physician caught the error, but it shows how fatigue warps even the most critical communication. Sleep researchers also found that the tired brain burns through glucose faster in language processing areas, meaning it literally runs out of fuel mid-conversation. That's why you sometimes stop mid-story and stare blankly as if your thoughts packed up and left the building. So the next time you find yourself saying keyboard when you meant sandwich, just blame it on your brain pulling an unplanned word scramble. Number 4. Emotional roller coaster brain. Ever felt like being tired makes you cry over a spilled cup of coffee or laugh hysterically at a joke that isn't funny? When sleep is scarce, your brain's emotional regulation goes haywire. The culprit is the prefrontal cortex, which normally keeps the amygdala, the emotional hot zone, in check. When you're sleep-deprived, that control weakens, so emotions swing like a pendulum. This is why exhausted people can flip from laughter to tears in seconds, or feel rage over tiny inconveniences. A study at UC Berkeley showed that sleep-deprived brains reacted to emotional images with 60% stronger responses than rested ones. Imagine looking at a puppy picture and tearing up like it's the finale of a tragic opera. That's your tired brain exaggerating everything. Pop culture has captured this perfectly. Think of the contestants on Survivor or Big Brother breaking down over rice portions after nights without sleep. They aren't weak, they're neurologically sabotaged. There's a darker side too. Chronic sleep loss is linked to depression, anxiety, and even suicidal thoughts, because the emotional center of the brain starts running unchecked. Essentially, fatigue turns your inner life into an unpredictable theme park without safety belts. So yes, being tired can literally make you feel like the world is ending when you run out of peanut butter. Number 3, microdreams. While awake. Picture this. You're sitting in a boring meeting, eyelids heavy, and suddenly you see a surreal image, a beach, a face, a random flash of memory. That wasn't imagination. It was a microdream. When you're severely sleep deprived, the brain sneaks in fragments of REM sleep even while you're awake. These flashes last only a few seconds, but they can feel vivid and strange, like reality briefly glitching. NASA has studied this phenomenon in pilots and found that microdreaming contributed to errors in flight simulators. Their brains literally dipped into dream mode mid-task. It gets creepier. Some people experience hypnagogic hallucinations during these microsleeps, seeing strangers' shapes or entire dreamlike scenes overlaying reality. It's the same process behind sleep paralysis visions, except it happens while you're still technically awake. Writers and inventors have unintentionally used this brain quirk to their advantage. Thomas Edison was known to nap with steel balls in his hands, so when he drifted into microdreaming, the balls would drop and wake him, allowing him to capture bizarre, dream-inspired ideas. Salvador Dali used the same trick for his surreal art. So, while microdreams can be terrifying, imagine seeing a shadowy figure at your desk. They also prove that the line between dreaming and waking is razor thin when the brain is running on empty. Number 2, memory blackouts. You might think staying awake just makes you tired, but in reality, it shreds your ability to remember even the simplest things. Sleep is when the hippocampus, the brain's save button, consolidates short-term experiences into long-term storage. Skip that process and your memories start evaporating like mist in the sun. That's why all-nighters before an exam usually backfire. Sure, you read the material, but your brain never filed it away properly. The next day, it's as if you never studied at all. A Harvard study found that students who crammed all night performed significantly worse than those who studied less but slept. But it gets weirder. Sleep deprivation doesn't just block memory, it sometimes creates false memories. In one experiment, tired participants swore they saw details in photos that were never there. The brain, desperate to patch gaps, literally fabricated events. That means after a sleepless night, you can argue confidently about something you're absolutely wrong about, because your brain believes its own fiction. In real life, this has chilling implications. Witnesses who are fatigued are more likely to misidentify suspects or misremember key details. Soldiers and emergency workers often have to make life or death decisions while sleep deprived, and the risk of distorted memory can be catastrophic. So if you ever wake up after a sleepless night and wonder why your recollection of yesterday feels like Swiss cheese, the answer is simple. Your brain never pressed save. Number 1, out-of-body illusion. Here's the strangest thing your brain can do when it's tired. Make you feel like you've left your own body. Severe sleep deprivation disrupts the temporoparietal junction, a brain region that integrates sensory information about where you are in space. When that system falters, people experience depersonalization, a haunting sense that they're floating outside their body or observing themselves from a distance. Some describe it as feeling like a video game character moving on autopilot. Others say it's like being stuck behind a pane of glass watching life instead of living it. It's terrifying because it blurs the ultimate boundary, your sense of self. This phenomenon has been recorded in extreme cases, like soldiers kept awake for 72+ hours, who reported floating above their trenches. Marathon runners in ultra-endurance events sometimes describe the same sensation as if their body is running while their mind hovers elsewhere. Psychologists believe it's the brain's last-ditch coping mechanism, essentially saying, if I can't rest, I'll disconnect from reality. The result is both fascinating and horrifying, a biological self-defense trick that makes you question whether you're even real. So the next time exhaustion leaves you staring blankly at your own reflection, wondering if you're really there, know this: your tired brain is capable of producing an out-of-body illusion without any drugs, meditation, or near-death experience. Just pure, old-fashioned lack of sleep. That's it for today. I'll be doing similar videos in the future. Subscribe to see them,